The guys who started first, second, and third finished first, second, and third in the same order they started. It must have been a very, very boring and uneventful race, right? Wrong. It was a very eventful race that had a lot happen. In fact, these three guys, two of them were not even in the top three most of the race, and it involved some controversy in this race. We saw a lot of single car incidents, lots of spins, including the guy who won the race, Denny Hamlin, gets his record-breaking 7th win at Pocono, breaks the tie with Jeff Gordon, the greatest driver of all time. Anyways, Denny Hamlin, lap 1, he had the pole, by the way. Lap 1, goes in, exit turn 1, just hits the wall. Just hits the wall. Falls back to 5th or 6th. Ends up being fine. Later on the race, spins, works his way back up through the field, and then with the restart with 20-something to go, I can't remember the exact number, he is on the outside, and there's a car to his inside, and, you know, everyone's expecting this next restart to be nice and calm and nothing to happen because, it was Ross Chastain. So, as I said, Chastain was on the outside. He had the lead. And Hamlin was on the inside as they went into turn 1. Well, they got a pretty even launch. They were sitting there side by side. Chastain goes into turn 1. Hamlin goes into turn 1. What happens next? Hamlin kind of, sort of, technically puts him in the wall. Chastain spins down the racetrack, gets nailed by Kevin Harvick, hits the inside wall, race over for Chastain. So, of course, if you do not know, that was sarcasm about they have no history. They do have history. Back at Gateway, Chastain decided to move Denny Hamlin, put him in the fence. Hamlin retaliated by slowing Chastain down, making it extremely hard to do anything because Hamlin, who was multiple laps down at this point, would just hold up Chastain. He would go all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, off the racetrack at times, to show Chastain his displeasure. He would brake check him in the middle of the turns. He would force him up the racetrack. Whatever he had to do, but he would not intentionally wreck him. Then later on in Atlanta, more things happened. Chastain got a little bit loose, hit the 11 again, and Hamlin spun out, which made Denny Hamlin even more mad. And today, Denny Hamlin, he's been saying he's not going to get away with this. He's not going to get away with this. I'm going to wait for the right time. And today was the right time, okay? Now, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, one of these weeks, they could have been having an off week and been fighting for 20th, and Hamlin could have junked him, but what good would that do you? You wrecked him while he was in 20th. You turned his bad day into over. If anything, you did him a favor. Whereas this situation, this is the right time and place to do it. Sure, he took out Kevin Harvick. He might have pissed off Kevin Harvick in the process, which, you got to take that risk if you're going to get revenge. But in my opinion, revenge in NASCAR can only be done certain ways. As iconic as it is, as talked about it as it is, you can't do what Matt Kenseth did. That's bad. It's setting a bad example. But what Denny Hamlin did, he did not, miss a corner and take out Chastain. He didn't wreck him. In fact, they barely made contact. Hamlin just raced him a little harder, I guess you could say. Into turn 1, goes a little bit deep, and, Chastain knows that Hamlin is still pissed off at him for all these incidents that have happened. And what happens next is that Hamlin just keeps going. He doesn't lift. He just kind of keeps forcing Chastain to go up until he hits the wall. Chastain waits till the last second. Chastain gets into the dirt, hits the wall, and crashes. And that's the right way to do it because, as I said earlier, you do it for 20th place, whatever. But this was for the win. There's a lot on the line. 5 playoff points are on the line, obviously. But for Chastain, the regular season championship is on the line. Sure, he was more than a race back coming into this race. But at the time, Chastain could have won this race, and I think he was about even with Chase Elliott, the points leader, coming into the final stage on stage points in this race. So they were about even. Chase Elliott was in 9th or 10th. So Chastain would gain a good chunk of points by winning this race, which could help him in the regular season championship fight, and also it could, help him with the regular season championship fight, which gets you extra playoff points, and then also 5 playoff points of his own. So, in a sense, Denny Hamlin took him out of a win, took him out of playoff points, and also very much hurt his regular season championship hopes because Chase Elliott would come home to finish third after all that chaos. So, Denny Hamlin did it right because, one, he did not intentionally junk Ross Chastain. He did not Matt Kenseth him, to say the least. He did not do it while running in 20th place, so, it actually did something to Chastain. And also, it hurt Chastain a lot more than just this race. It hurt him in the big picture in terms of the regular season championship. And, of course, it helped Hamlin as well because he had one less competitor to fight for the win with, and he would go on to win himself. So, seriously, though, Hamlin didn't do it. If that was just, they had no history and Hamlin did that, I'd still call that racing incident. It's not even dirty or anything. But because they had history, that Hamlin's going to send it in there deep. He's going to push to the absolute limit on Chastain. You kind of knew that was a bit intentional. So, fair play by Hamlin, I would have to say. He didn't have to junk him. Technically he did have to junk him, but he didn't have to Matt Kenseth or Jeff Gordon 2012 Phoenix junk him. Some people will call it dirty, I'm sure. Some people will say, that you shouldn't be getting revenge and all that stuff. But I think that's one of the few ways that you can do it in NASCAR. As I said, I think Kenseth, as iconic as it is, it's not the right way to do it. I think that what Hamlin did there, what Logano did at Homestead in 2020 to Chase Elliott, and then Chase Elliott did the same thing to Harvick in 2021 at Bristol, which is, someone costs you a win and then they're lapping you. You make it a little bit harder for them to lap you so someone else can catch up and take the lead from them. I think that's fine. Pinching them into the wall even, where you don't damage yourself, you don't obliterate your opponent. So like what Elliott did to Hamlin at Phoenix in 2017. Those are just a few examples of good revenge, I guess you could say, or even just, a light spin, spin them out a little bit. You don't have to junk them, but just spin them out a little bit. I can't think of an example off the top of my head for that one. But revenge happened in this race. Denny Hamlin got revenge on Ross Chastain. I don't know if it's over. Chastain was very careful with what he said post-race. You could kind of tell that he didn't want to say anything wrong. And so they asked him, is it over? And he kind of just nervously kind of started moving and then said very quietly, I don't know. So Chastain's still not sure if it's over because, there was 2 hits from Chastain to Hamlin. Now it's 1 from Hamlin to Chastain. So is it 2-1? Is it even? Where's the count at, Hamlin didn't seem to say it was over. He said he was still trying to get the respect, something to that matter. So that's that seems to me like it's not completely over. I don't think Hamlin will junk him again or anything, but he still might race him a little bit harder than he would, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, one of those guys. He might race Chastain a little bit harder. So yeah. Other big storylines for today. Last minute, almost 3-4 hours before the race, it was announced that Kurt Busch would not be racing in this race. He crashed in qualifying yesterday, got out of the car. He seemed to be okay and looked nothing too bad. But it turns out he was not cleared to race today by the doctors, so he was not able to race. The reasoning was concussion-like symptoms, so hit his head a little bit too hard, and I think that's a good call, obviously, for Kurt Busch's playoff situation right now. Even though he has that win, I think he is now the lowest winner in terms of the points. So that is not good for him in terms of that. But in terms of physical health, his well-being, this is the right call. We saw Dale Jr. in 2016 take a lot of time off for the concussions, and we've seen, in football with the CTE studies that concussions can be really bad if you hide them and you get too many of them. So I think that it's good that Kurt Busch did not race today. Just give his head some time to heal, that kind of thing. Just time off, quietness, darkness, just kind of relax and keep him safe. And who was his replacement today? Ty Gibbs. It's an interesting choice. It is, but realistically, it's probably the best choice because you look at Joe Gibbs' lineup right now in the Xfinity Series and stuff, or even if you go to the Truck Series with KBM, you could have said John Hunter Nemechek, but I don't know. I feel like this because, Ty Gibbs really is kind of the next guy to step in a Joe Gibbs racing car in terms of, if Kyle Busch leaves or Martin Truex Jr. retires or Denny Hamlin retires, someone like that, Ty Gibbs is like the logical next option just because he's really good and, he's Joe Gibbs' grandson. So what do you think he's going to go to Team Penske or something? But, yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise this morning, but hopefully Kurt Busch is doing better. Ty Gibbs, we'll talk about him when we get to him and the results. Speaking of, let's talk about the results of this race. Denny Hamlin, his third win of the season. Only 2 drivers have 3 wins this season, Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott. Hamlin has won 2 races from pole this year. I can't remember if he started Richmond on pole, so it could be 3, but Pocono and Charlotte, and he wasn't up front all day. He wasn't leading all the laps or anything, but he showed up when it mattered, and he held off his teammate. He held off other guys. He got some revenge in the process. He got himself another win. Chris Gabehart has talked about how they need playoff points that, they can't really fight for the regular season. The top 10 in the regular season points get extra playoff points. They're not really in contention for that, so they got to get playoff points on the track by getting wins and stage wins. Today they did just that with an additional 5 playoff points. I think they have 17 or 18 on the season. So very good day for them. Good day, good win. Second place, Kyle Busch, a 1-2 finish for Joe Gibbs Racing. Of course, a lot of talk about Kyle Busch and his contract. It seems to get more juicy every weekend when the press gets to Kyle Busch. So that's always interesting. But Kyle Busch, he's been really good at Pocono as of recently, last 5 or 6 years. Multiple wins, leads a ton of laps. He won a stage today. Probably led the most laps today. He was up front most of the day. So he probably had the best car today total. But unfortunately ends up finishing behind his teammate. But a good haul of points. He is in contention for the some extra playoff points through the regular season points. So a good points day for him. Gets himself a playoff point with that stage win. Third place, Chase Elliott. His top 2 streak is over. But it's with a third place finish. So, not too bad. And also he extends his regular season championship lead by a big, big chunk. His closest competitor was Ross Chastain, 67 points behind entering this race. And then I think Blaney was 75 points behind entering this race. And they both crashed out of the race. So Elliott, he gained some points on Blaney. I think he was about even with Chastain. So he ends up leaving with a big, big championship lead because those 2 crashed out. So, really good day for Chase Elliott. No playoff points game, but he does, extend his regular season championship lead, which is big for them. Fourth place, Tyler Reddick. Pretty solid run for him. Had a great finish to that race. He really wasn't talked about all day until the end. He kind of snuck up there in a sense. Gets himself a 4th place finish, which is big for him. As I said, with Kurt Busch being one of the lowest guys with wins, if we have more than 16 winners, it's based off points after that. Well, the fight, it was like a 20-point gap between Kurt Busch, Daniel Suarez, Tyler Reddick, and Chase Briscoe, and Chase Briscoe was the lowest. Well, 2 of those guys got in the top 5 today. Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez. Chase Briscoe, we'll get to him later, but those 2 guys gain a big chunk of points on Kurt Busch, who was not able to race today. Kurt Busch does have a waiver, by the way, to make the playoffs, even though he was missing a race. You have to compete in all the races or get a waiver. He got that medical waiver. But Kurt Busch loses a big chunk of points, and those 2 gain a lot of points. I believe Suarez got stage points at some point. But, Reddick and Suarez getting in the top 5, that is huge days for them. Obviously, they would like to lock in their playoff spot for sure with another win, but this was almost in a sense the dream day if they couldn't get the win. They both get top 5s. It's a repeat winner, so there's less chance of more than 16 winners. This was their dream today. 6th place, Christopher Bell. Another good run after the win last week at New Hampshire. That's 3 Joe Gibbs cars in the top 6. All 4 are in the top 10. 7th place, Kyle Larson won stage 1. 8th place, Michael McDowell, another great run for him. He's been having an underrated season. He's been looking really good. A lot of top 10s, it seems like, and at different types of tracks as well, not just super speedways and road courses. 9th place, Martin Truex Jr., 10th, Bubba Wallace, had a good day for him. 11th, Eric Jones, 12th, Austin Dillon, 13th, Alex Bowman, 14th, William Byron. Honestly, one of his better runs as of recently. It seems like they've been in a real slump the last couple of months. They were up in the top 5 for a bit there, but a pit road penalty in that last cycle of green flag stops kind of screwed them, and they had to try something different when the late race cautions came out, tried to pit. They end up 14th. 15th, Eric Almirola. 16th, Brad Keselowski. 17th, Chase Briscoe. There he is. So he does gain some points. Kurt Busch probably passes him in the standings. 18th, Ty Gibbs in his NASCAR Cup Series debut. Long future ahead of him. He will make plenty of starts in the Cup Series, but will it start in 2023 with Joe Gibbs Racing? I don't know. I don't know. We'll probably talk about that this week. We haven't talked about it a lot, the Kyle Busch contract situation, but Ty Gibbs definitely a candidate to replace him. But last second call, as I said, this morning it was announced. I'm assuming that Ty Gibbs was informed last night. He was at Pocono for the Cup or for the Xfinity Series race yesterday. Finished second in that race, I think, and got some laps on the simulator at like 1 a.m. Came back to Pocono and 18th. Not a bad finish. 19th, Cole Custer, good top 20 for him. They've had a struggle of year, but 19th. 20th, Stenhouse. 21st, Corey LaJoie. 22nd, Joey Logano. Penske, horrible today. Cindric spun out on like lap 5, broke the toe link, went multiple laps down. Blaney was the only glimmer of hope, and he ended up crashing himself coming out of turn 3. Turn 3 was the trouble turn. Everyone spun off that turn. And then Joey Logano was irrelevant all day, like did nothing. He got fresh tires once and then got lapped by Kyle Busch with older tires. Terrible day for him. 23rd, Haley. 24th, Ty Dillon. 25th, Harrison Burton. 26th, Noah Gragson. 27th, Todd Gilliland. 28th, Cody Ware. 29th, Kevin Harvick. Up there in the top 5, contending for the win before getting crashed by Ross Chastain, who was crashed by Denny Hamlin. Technically, I guess. But, yeah, must win for him. You got to win now. He was kind of within points, but not really. But now that he's crashed out and lost a big chunk of points, yeah, he's got to win. 30th, J.J. Elley. 31st, Chris Buescher. 32nd, B.J. McLeod. 33rd, Austin Cindric. 34th, Ross Chastain. He knew it would come back to bite him. It did. 35th, Ryan Blaney. Single car incident, Chastain and Blaney. Their chances at the regular season title are slimming a lot, and today did not help. Last, 36, Josh Bilicki had a mechanical failure mid-corner and crashed. That is the results from today. That is the big storylines, I guess. Surprisingly eventful Pocono. Lots of spins. Like the first 50 laps, we couldn't go without a caution, which was kind of surprising there. Some wrecks, some spins, as I said. Revenge at the end of the race with Chastain and Hamlin. Yeah, it was an odd race. It was a good Pocono race, a very good Pocono race. You know, you had that resin that kind of helped the upper groove. It made the upper groove really the preferred line, but you could also hold the bottom. So, pretty solid race. I've always liked Pocono. It's a very unique track, and shifting is back at Pocono. Thank goodness. That's what always made it so unique. But very solid race, like an 8.5 out of 10, I would say. Very good race, as I said. But thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, share. I'm sure we'll talk about the incident again tomorrow. Give me some time to kind of calm down, in a sense, and talk about it after viewing it a ton of times. So I'm sure we'll talk about it more tomorrow. We'll talk about more NASCAR stuff this week. So next week, Indianapolis road course should be an interesting one, especially after last year. But yeah, have a great rest of your night.